So I'm going to start recording the screen. So, everybody should have their sketchbooks. So let's go back for a few things. I have not completely graded all of the more or lesses. I'll have that done today. There are still people who I've sent messages to, or, well, I usually do both, comment in the grade book and send you a message of stuff that needs to be fixed. Please do that. At least acknowledge me and say, hey, I got it. I'm working on it. So I know that you understand what you need to do to fix things. And if you don't, do not be afraid to clarify with me, okay? Because sometimes reading something that I send you in a message does not translate as exactly what to do. I get that. Versus like actually having a conversation or me showing you. I have no problem jumping on a Google Meet with anybody in the afternoon and just literally, sometimes it's like a 3-minute thing. It's like, this is where it is, this is how you do it. And it's like, oh, that makes sense. So please do not hesitate to ask, okay? I'm missing a ton of work, and now that y'all are in school, it's a little easier for me to harass you a little bit more and be like, especially with Mr. Breen in there, he'll be my like harasser, like get your work turned in. He's good at that, aren't you, Mr. Breen? So we are moving into a graffiti unit this week, and graffiti is one of my personal favorite art mediums, I guess you would say. It is pretty awesome, in my opinion. We are going to start today. We're going to talk more and more about graffiti through the week. Like I said, I moved the discussion to Friday because we will have 3 videos we're going to watch on different graffiti artists. The one we're going to watch together actually right now, which then you don't have to watch it on Friday, lucky you, is all about kind of like where graffiti comes from. And it's a quick, like, where it started. So I'm going to play that one in class because we already watched 2 videos for school. So that's why I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and watch a bunch more videos today. It's a little much, but I am going to show you that one because I think it's really important for you to kind of get an understanding of the beginnings of graffiti and kind of what it means. Also, before we move on to like our actual project, everyone needs to have an understanding of the fact that yes, some graffiti is illegal, but I'm not talking about illegal graffiti for you to create. So we'll talk about the differences between that. So I'm going to show you this real fast. I'm going to pause my recording because if you're at home, you can just watch this on your own. Graffiti comes from, and it is a huge art movement. It's personally one of my favorites. And there are ways to go about graffiti that would fall into the legal realm of graffiti. And we'll talk about that in a second as I jump in here. So in your folder today for Tuesday, you have attendance, you have the breakdown of what we're doing. We have 2 sketches we're going to start today. And is this in here? Sorry, I have like multiple things. Okay, that's what I thought. So I shortened it. And we're going to talk about all different styles of graffiti and what it looks like. So graffiti is known, there's a lot of different names for graffiti, even more so than I have here. It's known beyond graffiti as like slap art, yarn bombing, tagging, ad busting, sticker bombing, brandalism, artivism, and street art. And there's even more names than that. So if you ever hear any of those words, that is typically associated with graffiti. Now, any of these could be legal and any of them can be illegal. Does anybody know how something in the graffiti world can be considered legal? So it's not against the law. And this is where, Mr. Breen, I'll need your help because I can't really hear them or see them. So if anyone has their hand up or wants to say something, I would love for...
Michael?
Yeah. Any of them could be illegal or illegal. Yeah. The biggest thing really is that you get your own chalkboard. They could just if it's your area, it's definitely legal. It's your space.
Or if you're like, or the person who owns the property you're doing it on, yeah, gives permission, what Bella said.
Permission. Yep, that's a huge one. So the two main things, nice job, guys, is permission, and another word is called commission, which is a paid permission. So that means that somebody hires you and pays you to do the work. So those are the 2 ways that it's legal, is the permission and the commission. Otherwise, the rest of it is not legal. Hi. How are you, Ms. Hagebach?
There is a great children's book about this artist.
Yes.
That find and bring in because it's fabulous.
It is fabulous, and it's actually on sale right now at Costco. I saw it the other day.
Oh.
It is fabulous. This is Jean-Michel Basquiat, and he's actually kind of coined as the godfather of graffiti in the modern era. So if you guys notice in the video that graffiti went all the way back to the beginning of time and basically started with vandalism. He started in the late 70s, early 80s in Philadelphia underneath the overpasses. So he started doing his work underneath the overpasses in Philly. And he really built a following. His artwork, some people call it scary, some people call it childlike. I think it's absolutely beautiful. He's one of my absolute favorite artists to this day. His crown that he does, this right here, is one of his most famous symbols. He has it in almost all of his work. Is one of my favorite symbols. It's just absolutely beautiful. This is a piece that they cut off of a wall and then framed, and it's actually for sale in a gallery in New York. I took a picture of this. Poor picture, obviously, with a flash or with the lighting coming off of it. But this was like marked at $2.1 million. That's how much this was selling for. So his work is considered almost priceless or super expensive, obviously. And this is a piece here I like to show because this is a legal piece. This artist was commissioned, paid to create this. If you've ever been downtown Minneapolis, there's an outdoor parking structure that has a painting very similar to this with Bob Dylan. It is this same artist. So this artist is a traveling artist, and a lot of cities hire him to come in and beautify the buildings. And he does a really beautiful job paying homage to like famous musicians and artists. And this is Basquiat here. He's got gloves on. You can't see the person over here. It's actually Andy Warhol. He's a pop art artist from the 70s and 80s. And they were like besties, and then not so much. So this kind of represents them. Like they literally had a boxing match at a boxing ring in New York. So that kind of represents that. There is a fence around here to keep actual other people from defacing the property. This is like one of those pieces. Here's another up-and-coming graffiti artist in New York. His name is Pyramid Oracle. My husband and I actually have a Pyramid Oracle graffiti piece. We commissioned him to create a piece for us, which he did. It's one of my favorite pieces I have. I literally like stalked him on Instagram and sent him a DM and asked if I could commission a piece from him. And he let us, and he said, yeah. It took like 9 months to get it, but it was well worth the wait. His work is very like, it's like a lot of paying homage to like older, like it's very beautiful. This is my daughter years ago. She looks super enthused, doesn't she? This is like her 5th graffiti tour that day. She was super over it. But this piece behind her was one of the pieces we loved of his. Here is another artist. And I like to show you, these are all current artists because this is what you see on the streets of like New York and Boston and Philly. This is BK Fox. And this is a female artist, which is not as common in the graffiti world. Most of them are male. And I want to show you perspective. This is the ground, and this is the top of the building. So that's how large that is. And look at how realistic this girl looks. So BK Fox does more realism. How you do that with spray paint, I honestly don't know. It's unbelievable. So graffiti it kind of falls in that world of all sorts of like realistic, tons and tons and tons of skill. This is called wheat pasting. So if you kind of look at Abraham Lincoln, this person is obviously all about politics. This is Sac 6. This is not legal. However, this restaurant right here absolutely loves this piece because people come from all over the place to find it. So then that brings them business for free. So it's kind of a one of those things where they're like, all right. This is also wheat paste, which means it is not ruining the wall. So it's kind of like a big sticker. They like put it up there and paste it like they do wallpaper. So it is not permanent. If this person was caught doing this, they would not get a vandalism charge. They would get a littering charge. So that's kind of something that's been coming up in the graffiti world is the stickers and the wheat pasting. But this is another pretty famous artist. Have any of you heard of Space Invader or seen Space Invader stuff? Brody, I figured for some reason I thought you would have. So Space Invader, he creates all of his work using mosaics, so glass tiles, and his work is also worth millions, but if you remove it, it's worth nothing. So it's kind of one of those things where like you never are going to reap the benefits of it, except for the fact that people will come searching for it. Space Invader has work all over the world. These two are in New York. When I was in Paris 2 summers ago, I think I saw like 15 Space Invader pieces, which was really cool. Here's some more wheat pasting. I just like to show you examples. This is where people take ceramics or cement and add it. It does ruin the wall and the ground, so a lot of these people need permission. Well, some of these aren't legal, but you have to be careful with that because it can ruin whatever it's on. So permission is great. A lot of people beautify surfaces. So you'll start to see things that people are painting to beautify. There's a bunch of, I live in Minneapolis actually, and there's a bunch of murals coming up everywhere around here. So they're trying to beautify the building. A lot of the buildings were tagged or vandalized this summer during the riots during George Floyd, and I live right in that area. So artists are coming in now to beautify the area, and there's a lot of really beautiful political pieces coming up. Chalk. It's the safest form of graffiti there is. All you need is some rain or some water. And it's also not easy to be super detailed with chalk, and I think this one's cute. This is called yarn bombing. It's also very safe. You can kind of see the run down areas behind it. So people will come in and add these like yarn bombs to things. There's yarn bombing all over the cities, all over trees. They beautify lots of areas. All you have to do is snip and it comes off. This is a Banksy piece. Has anybody heard of Banksy before? Some of you probably have. He's actually the most famous graffiti artist currently, and he's considered a masked artist, which means they honestly do not know his true identity. He was up for an Oscar a few years ago for his documentary, and they were super hoping that he would show up to the Oscars, and he did not, because nobody knows who he is. They do know he's male, and that's about it. He is married, so I'm real curious if his wife knows that he's Banksy. My guess is yes. We just watched this. I have a lot of videos in this little slideshow here of different artists because I love them so much. So I'm a little biased because it is, again, one of my favorite forms of art. But that's just kind of literally the gist of graffiti. It's made for lots of reasons. The only reason I would want you to make it is if you have permission or commission. A lot of murals are considered graffiti, but again, they're not illegal. Where we're moving today is we're going to start practicing first, like we normally do. So what we're going to do is you are going to create, you can choose how you want to do this. Most students, I'm going to kind of skip ahead so I can show you the examples, and then I'll go back. Most students chose to do it on one sheet of sketch paper. Some students felt really confined to one sheet of sketch paper, so they did it on a couple different sheets. You are going to have 4 practices today with graffiti before you start your own big graffiti piece on a plain sheet of paper. So how that works, and again, these are examples for my students. This one only did 3. They've missed their H. But there are 4, and I have the step-by-step for you. So the first one is the word art. So it literally shows you how to get started with how to create the word art. Yours should look exactly like this and then be colored. I don't care what color, I don't care what you use. You want to use Sharpies, you want to use colored pencils, I don't care. If you do use Sharpies, make sure you put your bleed sheet underneath or take the page out and have something underneath it because the Sharpies will bleed onto the tables. The next word you're going to create is bonus, and this is done in a different graffiti style. There are unlimited graffiti styles. Like if you Google how to write graffiti, you're going to get pages and pages and pages of videos and images. So by the time you're done drawing bonus, it should look just like the bonus down here and then colored in. There are 2 videos here. You choose one. The left one is 3D blocks written the word love, and the right one is the word sorry. You choose which one you want to do. Okay, there's 2 videos. You choose. And then you color it, and then the letter H here, and you color that, and it comes out to this. Okay, so you can see art, bonus, love, H. They all did the love one. This love and this love are awesome. This one looks pretty good. This one, they didn't move the blocks as well. That is your practice page today. Before I move to the next one, does anyone have questions about that? Okay, so there's step by step, and then there's the video. Again, you choose which one you want to do. You don't have to do both. On a new sheet of paper, oh, there's some more examples. I forgot I put more in there. You can see how most of these kids box it out because they wanted to have the space. The next the next page is going to take you a little longer, and I'm going to give you more time on this one. You are going to create, now most of these people did their names. You do not have to do your name. You can do your favorite word or phrase as long as it's school appropriate. Do not care. But you are going to create your name or a word using a graffiti style. You can use one that you just learned, or you can go and you can search for whatever graffiti style you want. One technique to start writing your name in anything is just like on the art slide. Is that on 3? Nope. Is to start with stick letters and then outline it, because that really helps you, and then you erase them out. That's really helpful. But you can see here, you are now going to be bringing in to this stuff we've already learned, pattern, different techniques. So if you're going to stick with Sharpie, which most people do because it really replicates spray paint more than like colored pencil does, what are you going to do with your Sharpie skills? Are you going to do the shading you learned? What are you going to put in the background? How are you going to fill up that whole space? Your whole page should be utilized. Some people left their names white. Some people did not. But notice here, notice the outlining in different colors. Notice how, again, the contrast, which we talked about during our geometric project. Maddie stands out from the background. Like you want your name to stand out from the background. So that's your second part, okay? Today, right now, it is 8:37, and we have until 9:22. So we've got some time. I'm going to gauge where we're at like during cleanup. If everyone's still working on their 4 practices, we'll kind of see where we're at and maybe slow things down, because I want you to have time to create some really cool art and a really cool graffiti piece. So to recap, you do your 4 practices first, okay? And then you go into your favorite word or name to create a new sheet. So you'll have 2 pages that you'll be turning in. Does anybody have questions, a point of confusion? Do you need me to break anything else down? Or do you just want to plug away and get started?
Michael does.
When is the second one due?
Well, that, like I said, Michael, I'm going to kind of gauge today where y'all are at, because now that we're back in school, it's a little off with the timeline, if that makes sense. So I need to kind of work along with you. We have other work this week we will be doing also. To get us, because we are moving into a different final project for graffiti. So it's probably all going to be due at the beginning of next week. And we will have a rubric we'll turn in like normal with this week's work on it. Typically this is a 5-day week for this project. So that's why we probably won't be turning it in until probably Monday or Tuesday of next week. But that's also adding another sketch and then our project. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So everybody needs to use their time, and you're going to need to use your time tomorrow and the next day. Is everybody feeling okay?
How many days, when are we going to be moving on to the next thing from this one?
That's what I have to gauge at the end of class today. Like, it's really hard for me to gauge that, because if by the time we clean up and everybody's just finishing their 4 practices, then we're going to be working on this tomorrow too, because that's not fair to be like, now figure out how to get that done. You know what I mean? I don't want to move on if you haven't even started. Does that make sense to everybody, what I'm saying?
Yep.
Okay, so we're kind of just being more organic right now because this is our first day back, and we kind of just got to roll and see how things go. Is everybody cool?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to be quiet then.